school. We had numerous items to talk about. I do want to apologize for being 55 minutes late. This time, we would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Jermaine Lucas, Isaac Dean from Bailey Elementary. Would you come forward, please? They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Good job, man. Good job. Thank you, sir. Good job. Good job. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank
Young man,
you.
look sharp. See that teeth?
Awesome.
Also, at this time, before we adopt the agenda, I'd like to have one or two agenda items added. 5.1 will be writing out baseball. Also, under number 7, business items, we will add number 4, Nash Community College Board appointment. That being said, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Silver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the board minutes. So moved. Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. This time, recognitions, Dr. Catalano.
Good evening. We've got several recognitions this evening. Our first recognitions are for our Nash County Public School heroes. So we have got several students who are on Zoom with us this evening and who have received their recognition plaque already. And so I am going to call those students and we will recognize them on the Zoom call. These heroes are being recognized for outperformance and excellence for exemplar academic accomplishments. These students are actually, I believe they're all seniors who have received their AP capstone certificates. This means that these students have completed the AP research and the AP seminar courses and have received the AP capstone certificate and hopefully are well on their way to the capstone diploma as well. So the first student we have is Trinity Clanton from Southern Nash High School. Trinity, you should be able to turn your camera on if you'd like. And
Hi,
hi there, Trinity. Congratulations.
thank you.
The next student we have, who is a Nash County Public School hero for outperformance and excellence for completing his AP capstone certificate, is Nathan Kiger from Southern Nash High School. Nathan, if you could, is Nathan on the Zoom with us today? Okay, he must not have been able to make it. If we could give Nathan a round of applause. The next student, another one from Southern Nash High School, is Raul Nunez. Do we have Raul on the Zoom? Oh, they must not have been able to wait for us. Raul Nunez from Southern Nash High School, and Caitlin Copeland is a student from Nash Central High School who also received her research and seminar certificate. So if we could give those two students a round of applause. And then we've got two students who actually are graduates, but these two students not only completed their research and seminar diplomas, but they also completed 4 AP capstone exams or passed 4 AP capstone exams with a level 3 or higher, and therefore received our first AP capstone diplomas. And those students are Daniel Bowers from Nash Central High School. And we don't have Daniel with us either. Okay, so congratulations to our NCPS heroes for this month. And the next recognitions that we have, and if I could have Dr. Ellis and Mr. Lamb come forward for some photos. And Ms. Braswell, if you could come forward too. I apologize. So the following Nash County Public School staff members are being recognized or have been recognized because they received the 2021-22 Best of the Twin Counties Awards from the Rocky Mount Telegram. So I am going to read their names off if they could come forward and receive their certificate and pause for a photo. So the first we have is the Silver Best Teacher Award, which was given to Garrett Sheeran. Garrett, if you're here with us, if you could come forward. Congratulations. And the second award that we have is for Summer Delbridge. If you could come forward, she received the Best of the Twin Counties Gold Reader's Choice Award. Congratulations. And if we could have Miss Allison Williams come forward, she received the Best of the Twin Counties Bronze Award for Best Principal. Congratulations, Miss Williams. And we do have one additional principal who received a silver award. He's not able to be with us this evening, but Mr. Quentin Magano received the Reader's Choice Silver Award. Congratulations. And then last but not least, we have got a recognition for all of our staff and students who started their first few weeks of school. Miss Lamb has put together a short video for us to watch of some clips from the opening of school. Thank you. All right, that concludes our recognitions for this evening.
Thank you. This time we're 5.1, Rocky Mount Baseball, Mr. Davis.
Good evening. Here to discuss again the proposal for selling the baseball field and which direction the board would like to move in that surplus of the property.
Are we willing to entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in light of discussions that we've had, I would make a recommendation that we instruct Dr. Ellis to begin the sale of the property with a cash bid of $85,000, which to include an upset bid process for this sale.
Have a motion by Mr. Dunton.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried.
I just want to clarify that that is to solicit a bid in at least that amount because we don't have one currently
Right.
that meets that. criteria.
Solicit the upset bid, just like we've done in other properties.
Mr. Lamb, should we also make mention that we will not do installments? Are we clear on that?
It was for a-
An upset bid process on anything else. right?
Reggie, it was for a cash offer.
Cash alpha only? Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. The reason we did 5.1 and did the motion there because I know we have numerous speakers tonight. Some of you have changed your mind since the board has decided which direction to go on the sale of the baseball field, and you don't want to speak tonight. Don't feel like you have to. This is an opportunity that you don't. At this time, each month, a part of at least one regularly scheduled board meeting will be set aside for the discussion to address the school board through public comment. A sign-up sheet will be available in the communication office for any individual or group to indicate their desire to address the board. The deadline is noon the day of the board meeting. Any individual or group can sign up by appearing in person or by calling the communications office. The chairperson will decide the amount of time devoted to public comments. The superintendent shall develop additional procedures to ensure that the public comment sections proceed in an efficient and orderly manner. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made. Except in cases of emergency, information received during presentations will not be acted upon at the time it is received. It will take unanimous vote of the board members present to take action on a presentation considered to be of an unusual or emergency nature at the time it is presented. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with GS 143-318.17. If the board does not hold a regular scheduled meeting during a month, the board will not provide a time for public comment at any other meeting held during that month unless a majority of the board votes to allow public comment at the meeting or unless the purpose of the meeting is a public hearing. The first person to speak tonight, Mary Arrington.
Good evening. Good evening to everyone in their prospective places. I am Mary Arrington. I work as a bus driver. And on behalf of the bus drivers, I am speaking for them tonight. I have came before you all before in regards to a pay raise for the bus drivers. You all have said that the bus drivers are the most important people. It's time to show it. We need it. And we asking you all to show how much you do appreciate the bus drivers. You say we are number one, show us that we are number one. And that's the main thing I have been asking over a year. I was told last year that it was being taken care of. I have been out bedridden for the last 4 months, but I'm back. I'm back. And you all might get tired of me, and I'm going to keep asking until it's done because we are important. Okay? Now, about a month ago, it was brought to you all attention in regards to a tablet that's supposed to have been good for the bus drivers. This tablet is not working. You all need to see this tablet. This tablet is taking people, bus drivers. Now, if it wasn't a seasoned bus driver, that bus driver would have been on 95. And you know, no buses goes on 95. And the same thing that happened to one of the buses over in Bailey, where the bus went up under the tunnel. That tablet has rooted a bus driver. Now, if this bus driver didn't know anything about the new bus driver, same thing would happen. Okay? It doesn't work the way it says it's supposed to. It's supposed to give us every turn. We have to stop and punch in. That's taking our time. That's taking our time. You all need to go out and look and see what this tablet is doing. It's not doing anything for us. A lot of the bus drivers need monitors because of certain kids on the bus. And if you trying to drive, you can't concentrate on kids having a mask on. You got to constantly pull to the side. That's taking your time. It's taking your time. Now, I know a lot of the bus drivers has asked for a monitor. And in some incident, they were told that they was doing away with monitors. How can you do away with monitors when you need them? You know, here we're losing bus drivers, and it's not good. It's not good at all. I have talked to 2 or 3 bus drivers in the last couple of weeks in regard to not quitting, because I was going to come to the board and talk to them. You all just don't know the stress that goes on with the bus drivers. You all need to come out and ride with them one day. Nobody's out there riding with them to see what they go through. And if you behind that bus, you got license, come out there and drive it one day and see what they go through. We go through it. We go through it. You know, and it's important to me. Like I said, I was home bedridden for 4 months, but it was important for me, and it was important for the monitors and bus drivers. They even called me with problems that they had, because like I say, I will speak up. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's what we need to do things right for the bus drivers and the monitors and the janitors. And the cafeteria workers. We need to do things right, and they're not being done. You know, you all are the board. We depending on you all to do what's supposed to be right. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, thank you all, but you all, please, bus drivers.
Thank you.
Mr. Bronson Williams.
I say good afternoon to the board. It's kind of taken back by the idea that this board is looking for a cash offer for the sale of property. We know that sometimes people can have good intents, but finance are not always in favor of individuals who want to do some great things for this community, especially if children are in the mind. I would say that. But this year is coming and moving swiftly. We're approaching 30 days rather of almost in-person learning. I had the opportunity to review last month's regular scheduled meeting. I found that meeting to be very disturbing. One, because this board lacks true leadership. Not any kind of leadership, but the leadership that makes the main thing, which is our children. I'm sure many of you heard that before. As I see it, this district is operating in this actual district rather is operating in a logistical nightmare. How can 5 elected school board members, including the chairman of this board, think that it was wise, prudent, or the correct position to suggest that a mask should be a personal choice? You are elected to make policy, not based on your electoral base, but rather the entire school system. Currently, that includes part of Edgecombe County. I was shocked to see this system took the time to fix a pothole at D.S. Johnson Fairview Elementary School. I really appreciate that because that pothole was tearing up not just my car, but parents' cars who are picking up their children daily. I thank you for doing that. Going back to the 6 who strive to do what's right for the students, I thank you. I believe that in those 6, you will find a board chairperson, because that's where the leadership exists, within those 6 members who voted to support the idea of having children wear their masks for their safety when we know that children cannot be vaccinated. I look at the situation as if we have a chairman, based on comments from the last meeting, taking a genie style approach that I hope and I wish that things would just get better. Things get better by working at those things. Things get better by taking the necessary steps to ensure that growth and prosperity happen with our community. So many times we find ourselves meeting with everybody but the children. You call here to central office trying to meet with folks. They meeting this, meeting that. But when are you taking time to meet with the children in the classroom to talk about the issues and concerns that they have? Dealing with conflict resolution, I talk about so many times. I support the idea of these bus drivers who are dealing with buses that makes no sense at all. AC broken and obviously transportation systems with new technology not functioning properly. I'll leave you with this. When a bird is alive, it eats an ant. When a bird dies, the ant eats it. One tree can make a million matchsticks, but only one match can burn a million trees. Circumstances changes at any time. Don't devalue or hurt anyone in this life. You may have power today, but the other power may be someone else's tomorrow. Thank you.
Next speaker, Michael Maiden.
Good evening to this board. I'm a man of faith and a man of God. And I want to give you a biblical scripture story that took place of a man, I believe his name was Joseph, that desired to marry a woman. And in order to marry that woman, he had to work for his father-in-law. I believe it was 7 years. When he completed that time and it was time to marry his wife, the father gave him the sister and told him because the older had to be married before the younger. So he worked for the older, for the younger. He worked for them both. He was deceived by his father-in-law to get free labor out of him. And I'm a little concerned that we came in here, sat in this seat and faced 3 people over here and made plans to present an offer for this field. And we presented what was a fair offer, and at the time, the only offer. And since that time, the rules have changed. We sat here at another place and we heard these board members say, we're not concerned about the highest bidder. We want to know who's going to do the most for our community. We brought you a shovel-ready program in here last month and made a presentation to go in there and clean that field up and bring independent baseball to this city starting next month. The rules has changed. We made an offer of $70,000 to this board. Now we sit here and the rules have changed. We want to put it up for bid for $85,000. Are we bidding for the dollar, or are we bidding for those that could come in here and do something for our community? God is watching. You don't do it. I'm from Chicago. We call it a shakedown in Chicago. We can give you $70,000 in 30 days, and we can give you $85 in 30 days, but we still would have to wait for the upset bid process, and you only got one bid above what we made after we had already bid. I rest my case. God bless you.
Natalie Brooks.
May I remove my mask? Thank you. Not my glasses. Good evening. I am so appreciative of this opportunity to speak to the board as I seek your support to fill the vacant seat on the Nash Community College Board of Trustees. When the vacancy was brought to my attention, I thought to myself, Natalie, why not you? And I am sure each of you are thinking, yeah, why you? I will make a valiant attempt to make a compelling case for your vote. Why me? First, the Board of Trustees is the guardian or steward of an educational institution. I am a lifelong educator. I will be an educator today, tomorrow, and always. And as such, I can bring some clarity to the unique challenges in education for students and educators. I retired in 2013, having served 33 years as an elementary school teacher, mentor, and instructional coach. After retiring, I was fortunate to apply, interview for, and was hired to teach adult basic education at Nash Community College. My knowledge and experience should prove invaluable as a board member because a board trustee should always strive to create a climate of success for students and for educators. I did that as an educator, and I would love the opportunity to continue to do that as a member of the Board of Trustees. Why me? My connection with Nash Community College runs pretty deep. My father, mother, brother, daughter, and I were enrolled at various times through the years. As you can see, my family and I have invested in Nash Community College. In fact, I am a product of the community the college serves. I want to be involved in the exciting, thoughtful discussions during the decision-making process. I want to advocate for those who are historically underserved and underrepresented. Okay, if I haven't convinced you yet to give me your vote, perhaps this will. A portion of the North Carolina Community College System mission statement reads thusly: to develop a globally and multicultural competent workforce. Currently enrolled at Nash Community College is 1,664 females, 1,002 males. The ethnic makeup of the males, 239 Black, 571 white, 192 others. For females, is 832 white, 587 Black, and 245 other. The board's makeup prior to this vacancy was 6 white males, 2 white females, 3 Black males, and 0 Black females. I repeat, 0 Black females. Wouldn't it be outstanding for those 587 Black students, female students, to see themselves reflected on the board? Finally, I ask you to consider, shouldn't Nash Community College Board of Trustees reflect the students and the community it serves? So I respectfully ask you, why not me? Thank you.
Nehemiah Smith, Jr. Good evening.
Matthew 12:25 says, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. It says that, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Your 65 vote on whether or not children should wear masks is a testament to a divided house. The 6 voted for safety, but 5 voted for political favor after polling constituents. Safety isn't something you poll. This division shows the difference between what it means to be elected and what it means to be electable. The elected person will do what is right for and by the children, despite any political gain or loss. But the electable person goes which way the wind blows and with what is politically expedient. Double-minded. You voted and said that children have to wear masks in school. But when you come in your own building, you say masks are strongly recommended. That's double-mindedness. It should be the same across the board. If children have to wear it, everybody should have to wear it. That doesn't make any sense. My father's most used words when it came to this system, it's about the children. He say that over and over again. It's about the children. When did it become about a vote? When did it become about polling? When did it become about money? It became about all of those things when it became about you. If you're about the children, we need you. But if you're about anything else, grab your coat, your hat, and leave. It seems as though 6 of you are for the children. 5 of you are for yourselves. And if that hurt, I always heard that a hit dog will holler. If that bothers you, it should. Because there's no way, it should have been a unanimous vote. All children wear masks to school. And if anybody says, well, the data doesn't say, what do you mean the data doesn't say? We didn't even have a flu season because of mask wearing. Flu season was almost non-existent. So for anybody to say that masks don't work, that's foolish. And the word tells us to forsake foolishness that we may live. So either you all wanted some students to be in the hospital or to be in the grave, or you care more about your political ties to the community than you do about children. And if you're on the school board, you're in the wrong place for that.
Rose Hunter.
Chairman, Lamb, and all you directors here. I'm very disappointed in the decision that you've made in your long closed session. We had hope for a better outcome. We came to you last month with a proposal. It was a good proposal. We explained why we thought that we were the best applicant. And we still think we're the best applicant for gaining possession of that facility, because we have put in the work for 20 years as volunteers, all volunteer services, serving the community, doing the impossible. Now you put the impossible before us. We don't have a lot of money. Matter of fact, none of us get paid. We don't have to even do a tax return because we use in-kind of volunteer service about $500,000 to get the services done. And we need you as our partners in the community to help us do our work better. Because when we do our work better in a city, then everybody benefits from that. We talked about our children. The group came in, we talked about today how we could work together because they bring in another component to our program. We believe in getting the children early. They want kids playing professional baseball. By the time they get to professional baseball, we lost half the children. We have to start at kindergarten level. Matter of fact, we have one program that we use, program with kids that's still in the crib. We go to the homes, take some snack, and take a book and a baseball. They grow up with baseball and reading. That's the kind of commitment we have. We were looking forward to bringing history, play, and exploration to our community, because then it helps Nash County, Edgecombe County, and the whole state when we do that, when we do the work. And we've been doing this work all these years, founded an organization in 1999 with a few community workers. We never missed a game. We don't do a program from the back office. We are right there in the face of the children every single day. We run all kinds of programs. We do the impossible. We have a reading program, 3,000 books that children go through. We have a coding program, the whole family coding together. We have a STEMS program. How do we do all of this? Because we work all the damn time, tell the truth. We work all the damn time. Now you put the impossible before us. You're not enabling us one bit. And I'm really upset about that. I'm at the age now I talk trash to everybody that come before me. I have earned the right to do it.
Amen.
And I'm excited about my work, but sometimes I get so weary about the lack of support. I was looking forward to getting that stadium, told the children about it, they're excited about it. We're gonna be running that stadium, Miss Rosa. Yes, we are. We're gonna have a good time in that stadium. You're gonna learn STEMs and how STEMs runs the stadium. But now, that's gone. And I'm so disappointed in you. And we don't have $85,000, but we try to raise it. Good day.
John Avent. John Avent. Brian Patterson. John Hardy.
Folks, I'm John Hardy, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to, I hope, share my qualifications for the Nash Community Board of Trustees position. In 1971, when I graduated from high school, I know they were glad, but not having adequate grades and lacking funds, I wanted to become a teacher and a coach, but college was out of the picture. And at that time, I learned about a program at Nash Technical Institution that gave me an opportunity to achieve the first 2 years of college level work at an affordable price through North Carolina Wesleyan. I went on to complete my degree. I became a teacher and a coach. I went on to gain 2 master level degrees and also an educational specialist degree, and move on to serve on this very board and have a long, distinguished career in education. My 2 children, both boys, went to Nash Community College, earned certification, earned their degrees, and are now having successful careers in this community. And my mother, at the young age of her mid-80s, worked at Nash Community College in the Media Center due to a grant by Nash Community College. Folks, as you can see, I have 4 generations that have direct ties to Nash Community College. I've seen it through that time grow and become what it is today. About 4 months ago, I was approached by a close friend that got to know me when I was at Nashville Elementary. And they mentioned to me that if this position came available, I needed to apply because there was a lack of representation on the southern end, and they knew me and knew my qualifications. I didn't give it much thought. And then all of a sudden, about, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, they caught me again, and this time it was not a request. It was one of those pleas that you could not turn down. And so I couldn't. I felt this person had faith in me, and I thought about it, and I did have those qualifications. I bring a uniqueness. We could talk about educational qualifications all night long, but I bring the uniqueness that I've seen it from its beginnings, and I see it evolving and going either further. And I want the opportunity to pay back, and those millions of John Hardys who were able to get an opportunity to achieve what they wanted to do. I want to see that happen and continue that process. I thank you for listening to me, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, that, at this time, that concludes our public input with the business items. 2021-22 COVID opening plan, Dr. Catalano.
Good evening, Chair Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, members of the board. We've got several district staff members who are going to come up and share some information on the 2021-22 COVID opening. And I am going to kick us off with a look at the metrics. So as we shared in our last meeting, and we send to you every week, we are tracking the CDC data on a weekly basis. The state of North Carolina is no longer tracking this data. They're relying on the CDC data. So this is both Nash and Edgecombe County's level of community transmission data. And I won't go through all of it, but the case rate per 100,000 over the last 7 days, the percent change over the last 7 days, confirmed deaths, percent positive over the last 7 days. So that information is here for you to see. On this slide, we have got the hospitalization data that is from that same CDC dashboard for both Nash and Edgecombe County. So you'll see the actual number of hospital admissions with the percent of beds that have been used in the last 7 days, as well as the percent of ICU beds, and again, for both Nash and Edgecombe County. And then this is the vaccination data, and they do report it out by age ranges. You'll see Nash County and Edgecombe County, the percent of the total population, percent of the entire population that's 12 and over. So that is not just students. It includes everyone who is 12 and older. Percent who's 18 and older, and then the percent of the population who is 65 and older for both counties as well. And before I go into our COVID numbers in our school system, I did want to share with you the COVID survey that we did send, or the opening survey that we did send out as a request at the last board meeting. And so this survey ran from August 17th to August 25th, which was the Wednesday after our first week of, or in our first week of school. One of the questions that was asked was what their opinion was in terms of wearing face coverings. And so this, I've broken down that survey by the stakeholder group. So this is the parent guardian stakeholder group. And as you'll see, 13.1% of that 579 total parent or guardians who responded to the survey wanted them required indoors for unvaccinated individuals only. 40.2% wanted them optional for all, and the largest part of the responses was 46.6% required indoors for all. This is the staff data. There were 114 staff members who responded to the survey. 21.1% wanted them required indoors for unvaccinated. 30.7% wanted them optional indoors for everyone. And again, the largest portion were 48.2% wanted them required indoors for all. Other mitigation measures, there were a total of 802 responses to the survey. And we did just ask about those other things that we talked about in our last board meeting. So this just breaks that down for you. The percent that wanted a restriction on visitors and volunteers of the total 802, that was about 24.8%. Those that wanted COVID screening measures in place was 30.4%. And that was for staff. And then for students, 28.9%. And then 25.3% wanted us to host or continue to host vaccination clinics. So the next slides are our Nash County Public School numbers. And so you see that we began collecting those numbers in, well, we've been collecting them the whole time, but in this format, we've began collecting them at the beginning of the first week of August. So you'll see those numbers, the total number of primary infections for students, and those were infections that were from outside of the community. They were not acquired in our school buildings. The number of secondary or school-related infections for students, and then that same for staff there as well. I did put this week's numbers up there, but that obviously will not end until tomorrow. So we will update those on our dashboard tomorrow. There are currently a total of 106 new cases that were reported this week. And then this is the staff and student cases that were acquired through either school-sponsored sports or extracurricular activities. We've had very few of those instances. And then these are our quarantines. Again, the same community transmission versus school transmission, both staff and students. So far this week, we've had 176 new quarantines. And that does not include the number who had tested positive and are out as well. And so Senate Bill 654 was passed on August 30th, I believe. And that included several things that we're going to talk through with you tonight. One of them was remote instruction for COVID emergencies. And when we looked at the requirements in this legislation, we realized that our communication and closure plan met the letter of this law. And so we're just going to unpack that. I'm going to have Christy come up in just a second and talk a little bit about that with me. So our communication plan does have a section about closures. We do make closure decisions based on either the number of COVID positive individuals, the number who have been advised to isolate, or the number of staff that are available to provide instruction to students. So all of those are possible scenarios that Christy and her team use to make the decision or to consult the health department. So Christy, if you'd like to come forward.
Sure, and I think these were the metrics that were used last year when we implemented looking at how do we make the decision on whether we close a school down or close a grade level down. What we have really seen this year is we are leaning heavily on the advice of our health department. When we look at the cases that we have, if you've seen the actual COVID cases have steadily risen, and we expect to see that rise a little bit more with having the Labor Day weekend and football games and everything back in place. So we are working with them. We are looking at where we have what's called a cluster, which are 5 or more cases that are linked together, where we can say, we can all show that there's a link between that. Say it's maybe a teacher that had COVID, and then we see several students that have that. We can only link it to that one teacher. That's an example. We see a lot of community spread where our nurses are doing a phenomenal job of stopping them and going ahead and put them on a quarantine or isolation if they're positive or if they're showing any symptoms. So our hopes is that with the mitigating measures we have, we are stopping the spread of COVID and the impact of COVID to try to keep our students in school and keep our classrooms open so that we don't have to make these decisions about closure. But we do have that available and some metrics there to use if we do need to. And then, of course, so far we've been able to cover the staff that it's been out. And so we continue to monitor that. I know of last year we had to shut 1 or 2 classes down because of there was just no staff. All the staff in the room ended up COVID positive. And so we had to make some decisions there. But other than that, we are doing what we can to keep it open.
And so within that communication plan, we talk about the fact that we commit to keeping schools open. We will look at closing single classrooms, and principals have got a notification script that they use for closing a single classroom down. And in that case, they notify the parents who are involved and the staff members who are involved in that closure. Multiple classrooms, and those could be closing multiple classrooms as a result of individuals testing positive, or as a result of multiple, like Christy was just mentioning, staff members being out and not having enough staff to cover the classrooms. And so we do have separate messages that the principals use to communicate that. Now, I would like to say we've not used any of those scripts at all. We've not had to close multiple classrooms or office buildings down. And then last but not least, full facility closures. So if it gets to the point that we're recommended to by the health department to close a full facility, either because multiple individuals have tested positive or because multiple individuals, I copied the same thing. What I meant to say was because multiple individuals were advised to isolate and quarantine, then we have guidance in place for that. Christy, no, I'm sorry, Angie, we've got your slide next. And so this next section is in line with the new Strong Schools Public Health Toolkit. And so some of the things that we'll be unpacking for you are changes in that.
This one is just an update in reference to the physical education and fine arts. There was some verbiage that changed that we went over with the instructional group as it references singing, shouting, and the instruments, dance, and exercise. So they will be wearing their mask during these times. And that did include weightlifting. We just had a few questions from some of the teachers. So that was to bring clarity there.
Okay, and as we look at one of our other mitigating measures in terms of the COVID testing and screening that we will be doing in the schools, kind of what will that look like in our district? Parental consent will be have to be given, and they will have to opt in. None of the testing or screening will be mandatory. It will all be optional. We have two different kinds of testing. We have the screenings, which will be weekly routine screenings that will be offered at each of our schools. That is performed by a company called Mako, who the State Department has a contract with to provide those services. So with the weekly routine screenings that will happen, that will be with our athletes, band, chorus, cheerleading, football, any athlete that's at the school would be able to participate in the weekly routine screenings. So we have met. Today, we ended up our meeting with all of our secondary administrators and our athletic directors to discuss that. Each school will have a plan that's individually tailored to meet whatever their needs at their school are. Also, staff and any students who opt in will be able to weekly participate in the weekly routine testing as well. We already have some staff members who go for a routine screening themselves. And so they're excited that we're going to be bringing that, and they won't have to, they can get it done right there on campus. I've had several parents contact me saying, you know, just trying to find a COVID test right now sometimes is difficult and driving around. So just wanting to know when we're going to start the program. So the second piece to that is our diagnostic testing, which will be offered at each school, and that will be performed by assigned staff that we did the contracts earlier for, that we're looking at providing some additional staff at the schools to help the nurses with. That will be for any staff or student who has opted into the program that we have parental consent and they've been notified that is symptomatic, or either they have had an exposure. So say we have a child who the nurse is having to talk to come and get their, calling the parent to come pick their child up. That child could be tested before they ever leave campus, and within 24 hours have the results of that testing. So they didn't have to drive around to go find a test. So really just the ease of the testing. We are opting at this time not to do the rapid testing. We are going to stick with the PCR, which is kind of the gold standard. If you get a positive with a PCR, it's pretty much a positive, and a negative is pretty much a negative. And the turnaround time being typically what we see in the community of 48 hours. Very few places do 24 hours. We'll have a 24-hour turnaround with that and be able to notify the parents and the students. Also with that, we will have an analytics dashboard. So we will be able to see how many of our students and staff members have been tested and what the outcomes of that is and the percentages across our districts, across schools. So we're pretty excited about that. In terms of the testing timeline, my goal is to have everything up and running and go live by October 1st. We were looking to send out the opt-in consent forms, and that will run 7 days. That's been pushed back a little bit because anytime you have to rely on an outside entity and a company, you kind of have to go with what their schedule is. But Nurse Terrell and I have a meeting Monday, the 13th. So the 14th, we are looking to start the opt-in consent forms process being rolled out. We will do some communications from the district level, and then the schools will do communication as well with that. And then we'll go from there and have it up and going by October the 1st, so we can start with that.
All right. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about quarantine and when we put someone in quarantine and what it means. So our quarantine is if someone has had an exposure to someone with COVID-19. So that exposure could have been at home, in the community, or in the school building. And we define exposure as less than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. There's a lot of groundwork you got to do to figure that out. One of the blessings we have this year with the masks is for our students, as long as they are consistently and appropriately wearing their masks in the classroom setting. If you have a positive student, you don't have to quarantine any of the other students in the vicinity. So that has saved us a lot thus far as the number of quarantines. So quarantine then is for a 14-day period from last contact with the person who had COVID. They complete 14 full days, and then they can come back and join back in. Any questions about how that works? And we call isolation if you're positive. We say you are in isolation and quarantine if you've just had the exposure. So the whole point is to try and keep you out so you don't spread it to anybody else.
Thank you. This time I will entertain a motion. Oh.
Sorry.
We've recognized that students and teachers quarantining will be inevitable. So we knew we had to be proactive and work with our school administrators to ensure that when students are quarantined, that learning continues. So in short, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read this to you, but from day one, we stressed to school administrators how important it was that students continue to practice using our learning management systems. And this was particularly important for our kindergarten students, our pre-K students, as well as our students transitioning to 6th grade. And we have different scenarios that we'll share with you as much as permissible when we have students who are leaving the in-person learning environment within the classroom, and we have to close classrooms, schools, or hallways. We will work diligently to ensure that those students receive instruction. If the teacher is ill and unable to work with the students, the learning will be asynchronous. So what that means is students will not have live instruction, but they will engage in learning materials that are print. with our kindergarten students, with our pre-K students, we have to follow the guidelines of the Department of the Division of Child Development and Early Education. And what that says is those students must have live instruction every single day. So we need to make sure we follow that. And the last thing is when our EC students are quarantined, we will continue, again, as much as permissible, to ensure that we are following IEPs as well as providing those EC services in accordance to an individualized temporary online instructional service plan. A lot of this is contingent upon whether the teachers are able to work. We have worked with principals and school administrators to make sure if the teacher cannot work, that they have a contingency plan in place. And lots of times that will be using print material.
And one more additional thing as it relates to water stations, there's been some question in relation to this. The cafeteria will continue to support with the cups and the water at the discretion of the principal. Also, the protocols have changed somewhat and the drinking fountains have been allowed for filling stations. And Mr. Davis's team has worked with the school principals on what their needs were, and we're able to open up some of those individual fountains for filling stations, and they are administered by adults and they are covered after their usage.
So in Senate Bill 654, one of the other items that is included in there, and I know Rod has sent some communication around this, is the requirement that local boards not only adopt a policy regarding the use of face coverings, which we did in our last meeting, but that you also vote at least once a month on whether the face covering policy should be modified. And so Ms. Lamb has put the August 2nd vote here on this slide for you to have a conversation around.
Conversation.
So I'm assuming, Mr. Malone, would they vote again on this last month's decision?
Or a new version, yeah.
Or change the decision?
Correct.
Okay.
I just, Mr. A point of clarity. Are we in? Okay. Am I right when I heard that if the children are wearing masks, regardless of it? Yes, ma'am. You don't have to quarantine. I mean, if the child 2 feet away from you is a positive COVID case, but there's face covering, the rest of the class does not. They're able to stay in person.
They're able to stay in place. So, you know, the important thing is that they're worn consistently and appropriately. And so if we find that somebody is not a great mask wearer, you know, theirs is always down below their chin, and you look at the rest of the guidelines, so the 6 feet. So was that child within the 6 feet, you know, radius that we would, but yes. So if the children are masked appropriately, then we don't have to quarantine with an exposure.
And the one thing, and I'm sorry to pile questions, but the one piece of feedback I have gotten is the I think teachers' dojos are being overwhelmed with, I hear there are only 12 kids in the class. Where are the rest of 12 kids? Is it then communicated to a mask wearing parent that there has been a positive case within 6 feet, or how is, it doesn't seem to be getting down to the parents. So the teachers then are having trouble answering those questions.
So we have within that same communication plan that has the open or the closure communication, principals are sending a mass notification message to the students in those classrooms where there's been a positive case. And in that mass notification, it does let them know that if they were deemed a high exposure, that they would have received an individual call, but that the connect or the mass notification call is just to let them know that somebody did test positive, but their child has not been deemed high exposure. And I'll let you, Deb, speak to contacting those that do need to quarantine.
So then if we do find a case where maybe the mask wearing or lunch is your big exception, because obviously they're unmasked at lunch and we can't keep them all 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
So then if we identify them, then the nurse makes a personal phone call to the parent and says, we've had a positive case in the classroom and your child's been deemed to have been an exposure and we need to quarantine for 14 days and test after day 5.
Does the teacher get that information as well? Thanks.
So, Mr. Chair, seeing that we're at this point that we need to make a motion, I'd like to make a motion, we maintain our face covering policy for this month as well.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Washington. All in favor, say aye. What?
I'm sorry. Just to help me. So the motion last time was keeping the schools, and the superintendent and I discussed it, and we kind of applied it throughout all buildings. And I do think it'd be nice to clarify the motion if we could this time in terms of whether the board intends to apply it across all buildings within the system.
Well, Ms. Malone, that's the policy that we had going last month, so.
No, the actual motion though says in the school, right? So that's right. So it was applied across the system, but I think it would be nice to clarify if the motion is intended to be across all buildings, that it be made that way, if you don't mind.
Yes. Thank you. So that motion is intended to be made across the system, all buildings.
Second still stands.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Washington. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise? Raise your hand with the 2 nay votes. Motion passed 9-2. Personnel excuse me.
They got some more still.
2021, 2022 COVID opening plan. I entertain a motion to approve the plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Personnel recommendation, Ms. Wallace.
Good evening again, Chairman Lamb, Vice Chair Sharp, President, virtual board members. The personnel report has been presented and reviewed. On behalf of Superintendent Ellis, your approval of the personnel report is requested.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Silver, second by Ms. E. Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Personnel recommendations information.
Your approval is not needed. Thank you.
Okay. Number 4, Nash Community College Board Appointment. We've had 2 speakers and we've had 2 people to apply. I'll entertain a motion. Well, what I'm gonna do, we've got 2 people. I'm gonna go roll call by the district. Have any comments, make comments, then I'm gonna ask which person you decide to vote for. Ms. Chavis?
Okay. I would like to start by saying I'm in a hard spot because I see 2 very qualified individuals that would do excellent. I see and hear Ms. Brooks talk about the diversity that's found on the campus and the representation, and I agree 100% with what she said. I appreciate her value for the community college and what it has meant to her family personally and her dedication to education. I have to admit, I think she will be very qualified. My hard seat is, however, with the person who previously held that spot, who was a very dear friend to me, had approached John Hardy prior to us being aware of me being aware of Ms. Brooks' interest. And I sent word back to that person that she could count on me making that nomination because I too feel he is also very qualified. I was taught you're only as good as your word. And if you give somebody your word, you stand by it. I think we have two very good people that could serve this community in that position. However, I gave my word to that person that I would stand and actually nominate John Hardy. So therefore, I have to stand by what I said I would do. And I think and would love to see Ms. Brooks in that position in the future if we could possibly have another seat down the road that she could apply for and fill for us. But my nomination would be for John Hardy.
Mr. Edwards?
Knowing what Miss Mary Wells wanted, I'm going to go with Miss Chavis and vote for John Hardy.
I found out about 2 months ago that Mr. Hardy has spoken to Ms. Wells. I did not say anything. The only people I said anything to was Dr. Ellis, Bill Sharp in the agenda meeting, because I did not know at the time the rules were going to change. You know, before the last 16 years I've been on this board, the Nash Community College commissioner sort of gave us a name that they wanted to continue on that board, whether it be Russell Proctor, whether it be Mary Wells or somebody else. So I did not share the name of any of the board members because I was waiting to get something from their board chair who they would like to nominate. Therefore, I did not solicit votes or see anybody else that was running. I've known John for a long time. You know, I'm like Mr. Edwards. I know the conversation took place because I have heard it. And the southern end of the county does not have any representation in Nash Community College. I think we've got two excellent candidates tonight. And now that the rules have changed, we will handle it different from now. But my vote is going to Mr. Hardy. Mr. Bizzett?
I'd just like to echo what all three of you said. I personally know Mr. Hardy. I think the other lady is very educated. I think she'd make a good spot, but I like the fact that this board would appoint someone that has some school system knowledge. So therefore, I'm gonna make my vote for Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Sharp?
Let me start out by prefacing saying this. First of all, it has never been the preference for the community, for the colleges to appoint people. That's the role and the responsibility of this board. We have neglected our responsibility. We have neglected doing our due diligence to find out who's best going to serve this board on that board. With that being said, I had a conversation with my colleague and also a conversation with the president of the college. I also had a conversation with the chair, send my information. My role is, I don't know what you guys done in the past, but it has not been the proper because it's our responsibility to point these seats. And the reason we point these seats because they represent the board. So, one of the things that I heard that was said, make the main thing the main thing. We vote on people based on who they are. No, it's all about the kids, how it's going to impact these kids. What I'm hearing is one of my colleagues saying, well, they don't have education. Baloney. I heard about what this young lady had, what brings to the table and what she says. She talked about the data and statistics as far as the minority population with the representation. We talk about every day. We want to see our kids represented, people that represents who we are, the composition of the board. When you look at the composition of the Board of Trustees at Nash Community College and the composition of what the student population is and what the faculty population is, it's not co-equal. It's not. How do you stand up and communicate something for a field or culture that you have no idea about? Mr. Hardy talked about doing at the southern end. One of the things Mr. Honeycutt said is what he wanted to do is do more stuff in the Rocky. He said, we're only 7 minutes away from Rocky Mountain. We need to be start doing something with that group. That's what he said. It's not about the southern end. It's not about who you feel comfortable with. It's about who's best for the child or the children or the institution. I'm here to tell you at some point in time, there will be a change in this system. A change in this system. And what you expect now is what you'll get later. And I hear the situation another time. You know what? That's what Martin Luther King said, I have a dream one day. What I'm seeing here is not a diversity, but everybody setting their mind towards what they feel as far as what they feel comfortable with. Folks, it's time for you and myself to get out of our comfort zone and look at what's best for our children. From the education level, it starts from pre-K up to high school, and then it goes up to early college. Look at the composition. I wish I had those numbers that Sister Brooke shared with us. How many of those people were minority folks in that group? How many folks in minority you have serving at the trustee board? It's our responsibility to point though. We don't wait for somebody to tell us what our jobs are. We don't wait for people to tell us what our jobs are. If you don't know what your job is, why are you here? So I'm gonna say I'm voting for Ms. Brooks and I stand firm on that.
Done.
Miss Natalie Brooks.
Mr. Jenkins.
First of all, it's unfortunate that we even had to make a decision like this, and my heart goes out to Miss Mary Wells' family and everything, but I'm gonna vote for Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Silver.
I'm certainly voting for Natalie Brooks because of the statistics that are at Nash College, Community College with the students. And she's qualified.
Ms. Washington.
The Nash Community College Board of Trustees needs Natalie Brooks.
E. Bullock.
I'm going to vote for Ms. Brooks, but I would like to say that before I knew that Mr. Hardy was applying for the seat, I had given my word that I would vote for Ms. Brooks. And so, while I know John Hardy, and I think I know the man very well, I have worked with him on this board, and had I not given my word that I would vote for Ms. Brooks, my conversation this evening would be totally different. I would be voting for Mr. Hardy simply because I know his work. But I've given my word and I will stand by my word, and my vote would be for Ms. Brooks.
Thank you.
And I hope Mr. Hardy understands that.
Ms. S. Bullock.
Yes, I'd like to give my support to Ms. Brooks, but I would like to say that I think just listening to all the conversations being had right now, we need more transparency. If everyone knew what cards were on the table, we can make a better informed decision, whether you're a friend to either side. When we're informed and we know what's going on and we have conversations, then we can make better decisions and better informed decisions. So I'm going to support Mrs. Brooks. I think Mr. Hardy sounds like a great candidate, but that would be my choice.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks is our representative for Nash Community College. Thank you. Administrative Service and Operations Committee, Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chair, we had a total of 9 items that need to go before this board. We had them all. We voted to accept all 9 items. So I'm presenting that to the board.
I'm entertaining a motion to approve the 9 items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dunn. Second by Ms. E. Bullock. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Student Support Services and Operations Committee, Ms. Washington.
The Student Support Services and Operations Committee met, and there were 3 items that needed to be brought before the full board for approval. And right now I'm seeking approval for those 3 items. Do I need to stay on for the record?
Well, you just, with the maximum one being.
I will.
Okay.
The 3 items are the Rocky Mount Police Department SRO contract, and then the revised Maxim contract, including the revisions made by Farrington Smith, and interim healthcare, and then the Nash County Health Department SNFI contract. Those are the 3 items.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Chavis. All in this question.
So it's 4 items because the interim healthcare contract is
Okay.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Academic Services and Accountability Committee, we have one item that needed approval. That was a CTE nursing clinical. I entertain a motion to approve that.
So moving.
Motion by E. Bullock, second by Mr. Sharp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Policy Committee, Ms. Bullock.
We have 15 policies that we are presenting tonight or.
Right.
I'm sorry. We have 15 policies that we are seeking approval tonight for final read. I move that we approve these 15 motions.
Motion by Ms. Bullock,
Policies.
second by Mr. Dunton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Superintendent's report.
All right, good evening. So school has started, but COVID has not left us. I want to just first thank all staff and because we have started school. It was so great to see a video. I've been to about 16 schools now, and I'm telling you, exciting to see kids in the building. And the resiliency of them being in the building with the mask, it seems like they don't miss a thing. It's so great to see them in. So that is so appreciative. I do want to apologize for some of the transportation concerns we've been having as a district. We are working diligently to figure out some of the problems we're having. We will figure them out. To those bus drivers, I do understand your concerns. Being a former teacher assistant and bus driver, I get it. So we're definitely going to work towards a common goal, and we're going to make sure these buses roll. So that is my commitment. I want to give a shout out to summer scholars. If you did see the data today, it is obvious that we are closing these gaps, which is what we needed to do to move forward. And also invite all stakeholders to our Connect, Inform, and Engage session. Webinar September 14th at 6 o'clock. The topic is social emotional services. And the Zoom link will be on the school and the district website. So thank you.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all the teachers, all the bus drivers, all the students, all the cafeteria workers. I think they have done an excellent job keeping our schools open. Also to the central office staff. I have been to quite a few schools. And you know, no matter what kind of condition you are in, but just going to a football game and seeing the stands filled and the smiling faces, the cheerleaders cheering, the band playing the national anthem, that's what it's all about. And I want to thank our entire operational staff for making and help the public being able to keep that open and keep happy. That's all I've got to say. Schedule upcoming meetings, important dates. September Policy Committee meeting Tuesday, September 28th. October Administrative Service Operations Committee, October 4th. October Student Support Service Operations Committee meeting, October 4th. Academic Services and Accountability Committee meeting, October 4th. October work session, October 4th, and the board meeting, October 4th. With that being said, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Jenkins to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, likewise. We are adjourned.